driven and you have big goals you want to succeed, and in the end, you want to live the life you've always pictured for yourself. But there's a problem. You're lazy. You know exactly what needs to be done, yet you still avoid it, which leads to feelings of shame because deep down, you know, you're capable of more. And that shame builds over days, weeks, and months until it slowly turns into acceptance. And then the new year arrives, bringing the same goals from last year. You start strong, fueled by motivation and a bit of illusion. But before you realize it, procrastination sneaks in. Like that one family member who shows up unannounced, your ongoing procrastination slowly turns into a daily habit of laziness. And before you know it, you've labeled yourself as a lazy person. So, how do we end this cycle and finally escape procrastination? There are countless videos online, but most of them only focus on surface fixes, like deleting social media or removing distractions, which may help in the short term, but fail to address the real issue. The root cause of procrastination, which can be summed up in one word: inertia. Inertia is the tendency of objects at rest to stay at rest, and objects in motion to stay in motion unless acted on by an external force. This is also known as Newton's first law of motion, and it applies just as much to tasks as it does to objects. Starting any task, no matter how small, requires an initial push and a certain amount of energy to overcome the resting state of inertia. And this is exactly the issue. We make this initial push so big and intimidating in our minds that we instead avoid the task entirely and distract ourselves with quick dopamine filled activities. So, to overcome procrastination, we need to break inertia, and there are two ways to do this. Getting started is the hardest part, so make it as easy as possible by lowering the stakes and taking the smallest step forward. For example, if you tell yourself you need to sit down and finish your 5,000 word essay, the inertia feels overwhelming as the stakes are too high. But instead, if you tell yourself you're only going to write 50 words, the resistance is much lower. Making it easy to get started without needing to rely on willpower or discipline. Another effective technique is the 2-minute rule. If you don't feel like doing the task, just tell yourself you'll do it for 2 minutes, then stop if you want to. For example, if you don't feel like cleaning your room, put on a song clean and stop when the music stops. The best part is usually you'll continue longer than 2 minutes or end up writing more than 50 words. And this is because objects in motion stay in motion, meaning once we begin, we start gaining momentum, and that momentum keeps us going longer. At first, it's like pushing a ball uphill, but once we pass the point of inertia, it's downhill from there. And that's why it's important that the initial push is small and easy. In other words, lower the stakes and start with just 2 minutes. You can apply these two methods to any area of your life to overcome procrastination, whether that's going to the gym, working on your side hustle, maintaining relationships, or almost anything you can think of. As Martin Luther King once said, you don't have to see the entire staircase, just take the first step.